Just because we are born with the potentiality to be God, so to speak, to really to really embody and express the full godhood, just because we don't have access to that does not mean that we are automatically off the bat God. Peace, family. It's your boy Zay-P, Zay-P to I am. I am that I am, as you are that you are, for we are all that we are. From the individual to the many, from the many comes the all, and the all is one. So your boy's back at it. I'm back with a brand new video. I definitely felt like the need to come in today and just drop some new insights fit for the community and need to be said, need to be spoken. That's not very much talked about when we get around to talking about these ideas and concepts of being God. I myself am guilty of this, right? Especially right when I initially had my biggest conscious awakening experience, in 2016, I had a huge conscious awakening experience, ended up having a stroke, ended up having all these other things that happened. But my third eye, my crown chakra, my connection to the divine source and wisdom was blown wide open. And so I came to new layers, newfound understandings once I start piercing through the veil, once I start connecting with my higher self and all these other aspects. And the biggest message that comes through, the biggest lesson that often comes through, not just for myself, but for many, is the idea that we are God. The idea that God itself is already within us. The description that they would consider to be God is the idea that God is the Alpha and the Omega, but God is in the all of all. And most of us walk through life hearing or even saying such things, but not actually actualizing it, not actually taking it in as far as what that actually means for us as a person, as a human in our day-to-day life. Some have reached those levels of awareness where they realize that we are, in fact, as gods. Even in a lot of the religious texts, they will say that humans, people, were made in the image and likeness of God. Now, when we look strictly at religious and solely on religions, a lot of times they'll put that aspect outside of us. They never acknowledge the God within. Oftentimes they'll put us into a position where we are working to meet the needs of the God, to meet their satisfaction, to appease them, to be good, to be worthy. But when you start to break in through these newer levels and get deeper and deeper, we can actually come to places where we start to experience the fact that we are gods. We are very much gods in our own experience. We are very much gods in our body. And we are very much responsible and at cause for majority of everything that happens in our life. Now, the reason I do say majority is because this is a co-creative experience. There are other people, there are other elements at play that will bring into your experience different circumstances, different variables, and different stimuli. You may not be 100% responsible for all the things going on in your life, but you are responsible for most of the things. And the things that you're not responsible for, on some level or another, you're responsible from the place of either attracting them, either accepting them, either allowing them to be present in your experience. There's always a level of that personal responsibility. So with that, when you think of the idea of being God, it really relates to the idea that we need to take ownership of things. And a lot of times from the spiritual side of things, we get into very woo-woo concepts where we just want to think law of attraction. And then many people get into this mindset that I can sit and just think positively and have stuff be created for me. Well, it don't really work like that. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to actually put in action to match the thoughts, to match the frequencies and vibrations, right? You got to actually align yourself, truly work on the mind and the mindscape to really come to a place where you believe in your efforts, where you believe in yourself, where you believe in your capabilities, right? You got to align yourself along these three ways to actually trigger manifestation. So it doesn't just happen with just thought alone. Things usually align on multiple planes, oftentimes three, which would be the body, the mind, and the spirit. When we can bring all three of these things together with that proper intention, we can tend to manifest anything. But when we're not aware, well, we're still manifesting. But because we're not aware, we're manifesting crap. We're manifesting things on various levels because we're not aligning all three levels. We're manifesting things on various levels, and because we're not mindful, we don't realize what we're manifesting. So when we start to get into negative thought patterns and spirals and start stressing and worrying and becoming fretful over things, we weaken our body, we weaken our immune systems. We start attracting disease, illness, stress, anxiety, depression. We do all of these things to ourselves. It is also a manifestation, right? But a lot of times we don't want to take ownership of that or even come anywhere near acknowledging that. But that said, back to the idea of we are gods, we are all gods. One of the problem with this teaching, however, is that it can be misleading. It creates unrealistic expectations and narratives for life. But what has been coming to me through spirit, through my own channelings and my own inner work and self-reflections, is that no, we are not all gods. We are humans. Humans have, and we do have, the divine within us. We are divine and worthy simply by being an expression of life. Life flows in us and through us, and that alone makes us worthy. That alone makes us divine. But we are not gods. Not yet. See, what it was coming to me is that godhood, that sense of real connection with the oneness, with the source, really embodying that as figures such as Jesus may have, or the Buddha, or many other figures from various religious beliefs. To come to that place takes a level of effort. It is not just, you're not just entitled to it because you say, I'm a person, I'm a human, and I was made in God's image, so that's it, I'm a God. No, godhood comes through the work and the effort. There's potentiality. There's the divine potentiality within us. We always have the potential to grow and evolve and to step into and embody more and more aspects of God. We have that within us. We have it within us to really allow ourselves to embody the fullest expression and the fullest experience of God possible. Even in a moment where you might see somebody like myself channeling or tapping in, where that is just for a moment. But if you're not carrying that day to day, moment to moment, then how dare you say you're God? God is sustained presence. And that if that presence is not able to be sustained, well, then it can be just as much like spotty internet connection, right? So we can tap into Godhood, and there's always the divine potentiality for us to grow that seed, to grow that spark, to grow that way of being. But just like there's the divine potentiality to grow into our Godhood, right? There's that God spark within us, the Higgs boson, which is the subatomic particle that contains God consciousness, according to physics and metaphysics of science. Just like there is the potentiality to grow into Godhood, there's also the potentiality to grow innately in more evil and harmful, disharmonious ways. And just like you could say we are gods and actually believe that, until you actually tap into that potentiality, you're not really God. Because you're just as likely to be a demon. You're just as likely, because that potentiality in both ways resides in both of us, resides in all of us. Whether we like it or not, the good and the bad, the light and the dark, both reside within. And we can feed either, and we can manifest and embody and become more or less either. And that's not to say we cannot change. That is not to say we cannot change our minds, redefine ourselves, and start to do the work to become something other. But just know that that possibility is there. Just because we are born with the potentiality to be God, so to speak, to really embody and express the full Godhood, that full God mind, that full God consciousness, that full God body, within our limited human selves, just because we don't have access to that does not mean that we are automatically off the bat God. And we can just walk around, do and feel and think we can do whatever we want because we are God and we just have it like that, because that's not how it works. Just like this argument that the ideas of God and good and bad and heaven and hell are needed because this is what keeps man in line is complete bullshit. Anyone with compassion in the heart who's really aligned with themselves shouldn't need any kind of threat of hell or promise of some majestic magical land later on in order to do the right thing. To do the right thing comes innately inherent with anybody who is of sound, healthy mind and body. Anybody who is in a state of disharmony, in a state of dis-ease, in a state of ignorance and unknowing, they may be more likely to fall into these patterns of being evil or misguided or whatever the case may be. But that is not to say that, oh, just because there was no structure of heaven and hell, they became that way. So we need to stop assuming that, oh, just because we were made in the likeness and image of God, we are already God and we are not responsible, or we can be as ridiculous as we want to because we want to just run around saying we're God. You're just as likely to be a goddamn demon. And so we still have to be mindful of whom we are being in every given moment. We still have to be mindful of the amount of ignorance around us. We still have to be mindful to continue to grow ourselves, to continue to work to better ourselves, and never become so complacent just because of the thought that, well, we have a connection to the divine. We are divine. That's it. I get a free pass on everything. It just don't work that way. And you're fooling yourself and you're fooling others around you if you're really walking around talking like that, preaching like that, teaching that. And it's going to lead to some people experiencing very real, rude awakenings. And that's not cool or pleasant for anybody. So keep that in mind when we're running around here saying, I am God, I am goddess. You're also devil and devilless. All right, that potentiality, that spark is there, and it can take us up and it takes us down. It can take us lighter, it can take us denser, it can take us heavier, it can take us darker. We are at cause for all of that because we are in fact God. We aren't choosing, and we are opting in, and we are accepting, and we are going for the ride of our life. And that is life. So keep that in mind when you're thinking these things. It's your boy Zay-P. Seeing some peace and love. I'm out.